Hi, this is Ron Darling. This is Skip Lockwood.
Hi, I'm Ron Swoboda of the 69 New York Mets, and you're listening to Mets Musings with Gary Mack.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and welcome again to another edition of Mets Musings. I hope you had a great week out there, and this week we're going to skip the usual talking and opening and go right to our special guest. It's our halfway point of the season roundtable, and we've got the usual suspects all rounded up and ready to go. So let's start with Mr. Jeff Cohen. He is one of the hosts of the successful Baseball and BBQ, one of the best podcasts on the internet. Jeff, welcome back to Mets Musings.
Thank you, Gary. It's always a pleasure.
And also joining us is his partner in crime, the lovely and talented Mr. Len Aberman. Len, welcome
Thank you,
back.
Gary. I appreciate that. You know, I'm very thankful that you have me on today because I missed the last one and I heard your numbers went way up. So the fact that you're having me on, you just don't really care about your ratings. So thank you.
We want to see them go crashing right down to the floor. So.
I can guarantee that I can make that happen.
All right. And finally, our other guest is my former co-host, and now he's just a maven in training, Mr. Barry Newman. Barry, welcome back.
I'm a maven in training. MIT. I like that. I'm going to use it. I'm going to trademark it, and I'm just going to run with that. Hey, guys. How's it going?
All right.
Excellent. I want to know what a maven in training, how one trains to be a maven. Is there a school? Barry, are you attending classes, evening classes online? What's the deal?
Well, I haven't got the bill for it yet, but I suppose that is coming and coming sooner than later.
Oh,
Take
it's
out
free.
a Sally Mae loan.
And I wasn't even know I was taking the course.
Oh.
Because you get it via osmosis. That's why. All right, guys. So let's talk about what we're here this evening for, to talk about the New York Mets. And first half, the Mets are at, 50-30. They were in a rain delay for game 81. Of course, because Max Scherzer was supposed to pitch, so it had to rain to get a setback. But hopefully they'll play at 7:30 or so, and Scherzer will get his work in tonight. But 50-30, first place, 3.5 game lead in the National East. Expectations so far, are they high, medium, low? What do you think? We'll start with Jeff.
Expectation, I guess, at the beginning of the season, if you're saying we're at 50 wins in early July, I think I take that. But because they had such a large lead a month ago, you think they run away with it, but they're not. And obviously, June was a so-so month. They were I think one game over 500 in June, and the Braves were just red hot. So they lost that big lead. But I guess expectation was about where we thought they'd be, 20 games over 500. Heck, when was the last time we saw that?
Mm-hmm. Len?
First, can I just say, Gary Mack? Ooh, I missed doing that.
I just heard the crash of the ratings going
There
down.
you go. Yeah. First of all, 50-30, I would have signed for that, even if DeGrom and Scherzer were part of the starting rotation. To be 20 games, you're talking right now, they're on pace for 100-win season. Are you kidding me? In a heartbeat, I would have signed for it. They are far exceeding my expectations. Okay. 50 and 30, 20 games over, and they don't have two of their starters with them that we were expecting. Like I said, even without the two starters, or with the two, I would have signed on the dotted line. Love it.
And Barry, what's your thoughts?
I'll pretty much just continue on with Len and say you'd have to be crazy not to have signed for a 50 and 30 record at the midpoint of the season. But you would never know this from looking at what seems to anyway be the majority of social media postings. But you'd really have to be a blithering idiot not to have signed for this. And you have to remember, in March, there was the possibility that we wouldn't even have a season, or at least a part of it would be canceled. Now, does this mean they're going to hold off Atlanta for the NL East title? They may not. The Braves are a hell of a team. And did anyone think when they were 10.5 games out at the end of May, would the Braves just give up on the season? Of course not. There are 3 wild cards now. And the Braves are a tremendous team. They've only played the Mets 3 times. And we could be looking at a carbon copy of last year when the Giants won 107 games and the Dodgers won 106. But LA got them in the wild card round, although Wilmer did check his swing. And unless the Mets have a rash of injuries and get nothing from Jake or Scherzer, and when I say a rash of injuries, basically if they lose, say, Alonso or Diaz or maybe Lindor, I don't see any way they don't get into the playoffs. At least it's a wild card. There are 6 playoff spots this year. There are 6 bad teams in the National League. The Marlins aren't that good. I don't count them as one of the 6. The Phillies are iffy, and Harper is out indefinitely, so do the math. And best thing of all, the Mets have an adult manager who never panics. And along with Billy Epler and Uncle Stevie, they will make the moves for the team to get better by the trade deadline.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think we have to remember too that when Atlanta made their run, I mean, it was truly a run. I mean, the Mets weren't playing awful ball. They were playing, they were struggling a little bit, but they played more or less 500 ball, a little bit over. It was really that 14 or 13 game winning streak, whatever the Braves had, that really cut into the lead. Because like if the Mets went 6-4 and they went 10-0, they picked up 4 games right there. So it wasn't that the Mets were, handing it back to them. They played decent enough ball. It was just that the Braves was so red hot that they were able to make up that distance, and it's going to be a dogfight. Next week's going to be very important. 3 big games in Atlanta for the Mets. They got to take 2 out of 3 to keep their dominance, and we'll see how that plays out. But
of course, the longest losing streak the Mets had was 3 games. That's
Yeah.
the longest losing streak so far. Of course,
Yeah.
the longest winning streak's been 6 games. So they haven't gone on a run where they need to go 15 out of 20. But
Right.
because, like you said, Atlanta was just so red hot.
Yeah.
You play 5 and 5, they pick up 5 games in a week.
Right. So that was that problem there. But all right, we mentioned about missing DeGrom and Scherzer and McGill, and so what would you guys think about the first half with the starting pitching? All things being considered, I mean, really, we can bitch and moan, but as Lynn said, 50 wins, and we have not had essentially 3 top starters for the majority of the first half, and yet, they're doing it somehow. What would you say about the first half pitching report? And I'll start with Barry this time.
I'd say the starting pitching without the big 2 has been fine. I'd say at least you have to give it a B+. Now, would I like to see the starters go deeper into the games and not tax that bullpen? Of course, but that's baseball 2022. And even if we get, or I want to say when we get Scherzer back, but with DeGrom, it's more if we get DeGrom back, because I'll believe it when I see him take the mound. He's going to be a 5 inning, 6 inning pitcher tops. But with Walker, Carrasco, and Bassett, that's still a solid three. And the other 2 days, it's usually a lot of bullpen, and the bullpen has been solid. I know you asked just about the starting pitching, but the pitching in general, I might have to give it at least a B. I don't think it's higher than that, but I'll take a B any day. I would have taken them throughout my school career and any day, and I have to say I'm pleased. I'm actually as surprised as anything that Walker has come back after the lousy second half he had last season, and also we've seen a lot of good pitching from David Peterson, who was tremendous in his rookie season of 2020 and not so good in 2021, but he's been pretty solid. But the Mets rotation could use a little upgrade, the biggest one being the return of Scherzer and hopefully DeGrom, but there's room for trade, and I guess we will get to that along with the bullpen shortly.
Mm-hmm. Len?
I think actually, well, first of all, the fillers, the replacements, whatever you want to call them for Scherzer and DeGrom, they've done an outstanding job. I actually think if I am going to be, I cannot, as much as it's in our DNA to complain, to bitch and moan as Mets fans, I'm not going to do it because there's no reason to. So I'm going to be the positive one. It's definitely, would I have wanted Scherzer to make, to have the last 5, 6, 7 weeks as a starter with the team? Absolutely. But because of how the replacements have done, this has been basically some well-needed rest for Scherzer. If you remember the end of last season, he was done. He took himself out of the game, and he was done. It's an oblique, so he healed. He's back from it. It's not an arm issue, so we don't need to worry about that. Hopefully, this isn't something that's going to pop up again. But this is basically a forced vacation for Scherzer. It's going to be less innings on his arm at this stage of the game. So I think actually it turned out to be a positive. The replacements have been great, and I give them an A+. That's what I give them. Yeah, and I'm a tough grader, but I give them an A+.
Oh. All right,
well,
Jeff.
I wouldn't go as far as an A+. Obviously, I just want to say, just to a point that Barry said that Scherzer and DeGrom, they're going to go 5.5 and 6, and that's all the starters do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think one game maybe Bassett went into the 8th inning. The other day Carrasco went 5.2 and someone Walker went 5.2. So they're not going past 6 innings anyway.
It's the new baseball.
Yes, it's modern baseball, exactly. # modern baseball. But very impressed with Taijuan Walker. He's 7-2. He has an ERA less than 3. Who thought that would happen? I mean, he's been pitching very well. David Peterson has been very impressive also, 3.24 ERA. I mean, there's been games he hasn't been good, but there's games he's been excellent. They all go through their phases, and they've been very good for the most part. It's the bullpen that's a little scary, and I'm sure we'll get to that. By the way, they did let go of Jason Shreve today. I don't know if you heard the news, but he was DFA'd.
No, I did not hear that, and it's not a big surprise. He struggled a lot this year, and so I'm not surprised at all. Did it say who they called up to replace him at all, or
Max
Scherzer?
Scherzer.
Oh, for Scherzer. Okay, yeah.
Jeff, what grade would you give the starters?
Starters?
Yeah,
B+.
Okay, so maybe an A+, maybe too positive for
Yes.
everyone.
Yeah.
But I think they've stepped in and really played well. So maybe not an A plus, but I give them an A. I'm sorry. That's what I'm giving them.
All right.
Okay, well that's fair.
Yeah.
I'd probably give them a B, B plus as well. I think they've done a great job. Even Trevor Williams had some good games where he came in and really gave up, a couple of runs. And in this day and age, if you give up 2-3 runs and you keep your team at that, that's a good start nowadays. And I think that's what most of these starters have done. They've given up some runs, yes, but they've kept it at that, then able to shut down the team then and allowed the Mets the time to get back into the game. So, I think they've done well, and I'm looking forward really to see. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit later about trades, but boy, getting Scherzer and DeGrom comes back in a couple of weeks, and then McGill comes back in a month. And the key is they're going to be rested, so they're going to be tough down the stretch if we can get these guys to come back and they're healthy and they stay healthy the rest of the year. It's a big if, but we have to hope that way that they will come back and be rested. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the relief pitching.
Wait, Gary, can I just say
yes.
one thing?
Sure.
Because you just reminded me of something. I will tell you one thing that bothered me a lot. And I guess, and I don't know if there was anything they could have done about it, but DeGrom in his rehab start, I think, what did he throw? 24 pitches, 27 pitches.
Yeah.
And he was hitting 100 on the radar gun. His first start back.
Yeah.
I got a
Here we go. Now, you know what? Now Len, if he hit 100 miles per hour, people complain about that. If he hit 95 miles per hour, people complain about that. There's something wrong.
I'm complaining.
He's not going to win either way. He was going to, no matter what happened, the narrative was going to be he's throwing too hard. He's not throwing hard enough.
Okay, I have to weigh in on this one also because I have a lot of DeGrom stuff here, and this is the opportunity, and I'm going to take it. And Len, I pretty much agree with you. And you guys know that nobody loves Jake more than me, except for maybe his wife, his kids, and his mother. But for starters, I am very disappointed that he's even talking about opting out, regardless of him saying afterwards that he wants to stay in Met. But he hasn't pitched in a year. Why not just get back on the mound, see if you can stay healthy, and then just let the chips fall where they may? And as far as him hitting 101 in the exhibition game the other night, Glenn, I pretty much agree with you, almost 100%. We've seen several pitchers with lengthy injuries. The first one that comes to mind is Justin Verlander. They come back, they don't throw as hard, but they still get people out. And does anybody really think that if DeGrom threw 95, 96 miles an hour, he couldn't get big league hitters out?
No, but the narrative will be that he's not, there was something wrong with him.
In his first start back?
I don't,
come on.
Maybe, but I think the pros would outweigh the cons. And even Jeremy Hefner said that there's a law of diminishing returns for any pitcher that throws that hard and maxes out. It would at least, to me, behoove DeGrom to try and dial it back, especially when he's pitching against minor leaguers in a rehab start. I really feel strongly about it. He does not have to throw 100, 101 miles an hour. He's had 11 trips to the injured list in the last 21 months. And I guess the 11th being this 1 year absence. Do we really want DeGrom at 101 miles an hour, pitching maybe twice and then being done for the year? Or do you want to see, the really good DeGrom of 2015, 16, 17, even his rookie season, when he didn't throw 100, 101 miles an hour, but he was a damn good pitcher then. All of a sudden, 2018, 2019, he turns into pretty much an immortal pitcher. But look what happened. Look what's happened since then. I can't stress enough how I really think that they have to work with him and try and get him to dial it back a little. If it's part of his DNA, then that's just the risk that they're going to have to take. But hopefully they can get him to dial it back a little with the technology of today, maybe a little different grip on the ball. I don't think would be that difficult for him to actually cut a few miles off his fastball. And as far as the breaking pitches, the same things. So the distance or the change in speed between the fastball and his other pitches is still considerably more. I can't stress this enough.
Yeah. Can I just take Jeff? I gotta take you to task. I gotta.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Because you have said numerous times on the Baseball and Barbecue podcast that that these guys are throwing too hard all the time and they need to pitch and not always reach back for everything they have when they don't need to. And I don't really care what the narrative would be for a few days until his next start. It was his first start against single A batters. He had to throw 101. Come on. We're going to lose him again. It's bad. Somebody should have said something to him.
I've spoken to a former Met GM at the Queens Baseball Convention back in November, and he said that that's just his DNA. It's the way his body is. It's the way his mechanics is. It wouldn't change a thing. And this was Omar Minaya telling me this. So,
yeah, but he's the former GM.
I think he knows more baseball than you, me, Gary, and Barry all combined. And,
not more than Barry.
Well, that's because
Barry agrees with me.
Well, that's because of my MIT.
Exactly. Come on.
That's right.
All right, Gary, go ahead. Break the tie.
Top, by the way.
Well, I agree with both of you. I think it was ridiculous.
Come on.
But I'm telling let's also keep in mind that he was throwing comfortably. I watched some of it. He was throwing comfortably, and I think he wanted to make a statement. He knew he was going to throw probably around 20 to 25 pitches, and he wanted to air it out a couple of times. And he has been. It's not like he hasn't been throwing. He has been throwing. He's been throwing in simulated games, and I know it's not the same as in-game action. But you are throwing, and you're throwing just as hard. So it's not like he was off for a year and then just picked up the ball and threw it 100 miles an hour. His arm has been stretched out. He's been throwing. All he's doing now is to build up more stamina. But I think that while it was ridiculous, I think he wanted to prove a point. I think he had X amount of pitches, and he knew it was going to be that. And I think he wants to come back, and that's why he did what he did. So, no harm, no foul. He came out of it okay. I do agree that he should learn to throttle it back a little bit. Tom Seaver never threw it 100%.
No,
Tom Seaver always said he threw at 92, 95% of his capability. And he always kept that 5% if he ever needed it.
Exactly.
And that's what perhaps DeGrom's got to learn. But what Jeff says does, it's pretty true. It's in his DNA. It's the way he throws the ball, and if he can do that, it's a good sign that hopefully his arm is sound. And don't forget, it really wasn't his arm this time. This was something in the shoulder, wasn't it? That was. And all right, I know what you're going to say, Len. It's the stress of throwing 100 miles an hour.
I'm going to drop the mic.
You drop the mic, and I hope it breaks so that you can't say anything else. I'm going to say one more thing. Last season, yes, this was his shoulder, his scapula, whatever.
Yes.
Am I misremembering this, or did last season he not have to leave because he had issues in his forearm? Did he not have some forearm issues, or am I misremembering?
But that was a tightness, wasn't it? Or
that was that. And
I don't know,
this
with
is
a
this,
forearm,
and that's
a
that, and this.
shoulder, or a
Come on.
muscle. Who knows? I don't remember.
The point is, it's all fine until it's not.
Well,
okay,
and that's
want him
most
back
pitchers.
or not?
Well,
and that's
different era.
now.
Different era. When we were when Seaver and the Kuzmans were pitching, they pitched through. They knew how to pitch, and they knew how to pitch through pain or whatever. But
I'm just trying to get Gary some big ratings by saying, we're going to get the controversy going. The two guys from baseball and barbecue have a big argument. I mean, you get a lot of listeners coming on.
And guys, I really hope I'm wrong about this, but when it's 11 different, if not trips to the IL, but 11 different injuries, which force him to miss his start in 21 months, something is not right, regardless if something does or doesn't show up on an MRI. You just know, just intuitively, that something is not right. And the first thing I thought of when they had it in the paper that he was maxing out at 101 miles an hour, I was saying, is he out of his mind? I mean, these are single A batters. Just get your work in, and even if they clobber you, you just throw nothing but straight fastballs. You got your work in. It's like a spring training game. If DeGrom was healthy and he pitched a spring training game and he went 3 innings and gave up 5 runs, would anybody be worried about it? Of course not.
Right. Just get your work in. Okay. I agree. Barry, I agree. Totally. Jeff, it's in his DNA.
But it's true, though. I mean, the point also remains that if he didn't throw that hard, then there'd be people over social media saying, "What's wrong with DeGrom? They're hiding something. They're letting them." Well, you don't care,
Exactly.
but there's gonna be people that that are going to speculate everything that happens.
Well, Gary,
they push Scherzer back. They push Scherzer back one day in one of his rehab starts, and the freaking social media was like, "Oh, Scherzer's hurt worse than we thought. He's not coming back." When they say, and here he is coming back tonight, and the game is underway. By the way, it's 2-2 count on Nimmo as we speak, and so. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but it's not that they play to the social media, but you're not going to make them happy no matter what happens.
Gary, let me interject regarding social media, and then I'll throw the mic over to the 3 of you who are actually doing live podcasts these days. But there's no pleasing everybody on social media, and if you look at the majority of the social media postings, you would think the Mets are 30 and 50, and if they lose tonight, will be mathematically eliminated.
Right.
And I have on many occasions posted this, and I'll just say it here. And that is, unless every Mets batter hits a home run on the first pitch of every game, and every Mets pitcher strikes out the side on 9 pitches every time, someone on social media is going to find something to complain about.
That's for sure.
There's a lot of Chicken Littles on social media. The sky is falling. The sky is falling.
That's for sure. Well, all right. Let's. I think we've beat the starting pitching into a submission. So, what about the relief pitching? It's been shaky at times. It's been fantastic at times. As much as it pains me to say this, Diaz has been pretty reliable, though. I gotta admit, I still gotta cross my fingers and toes whenever he comes into a game. He still makes me nervous sometimes, but he has been very reliable. He's done well. Drew Smith was good for a while, and now he's a little shaky. Ottavino, he's pitched well, but boy, I watch his body language, and I think he looks like a deer in a headlight. It could be just his facial expressions. But he comes in and I'm just like, oh no. I just get nervous. I don't know why. Rodriguez has been up and down. Who else do we got? Who else? The heck?
Adonis
Shreve, we
Medina.
mentioned. Yeah.
Adonis Medina.
Holderman.
Holderman, who has the best name on the team because he comes in and holds the game.
Yeah, he's pitched well. Lugo's been up and down. He looked good last night. All right, I'm gonna start with this, and I'm gonna give the relief pitching a. It's hard to give him a C. I give him a B minus.
Yeah, I mean, Edwin Diaz is having a phenomenal season. Phenomenal. 1.95 ERA. He's striking out the world. The question is, will be able to do it in the postseason? But before we get there, I get nervous sometimes when he's getting hit hard. The first, second battle, and you're getting hit. You just know he doesn't have it. I don't know why they don't have anybody up behind him when that happens, but I'm not the manager. The rest of the bullpen, very, very shaky. Drew Smith, he thought he was going to turn a corner, and now you cross your fingers. Same with Seth Lugo. And you thought he was reliable. You don't know what you got. Adam Ottavino, I'm looking at now, he's a 2.67 ERA, which really surprised me. I thought it was much higher than that. Joely Rodriguez is our only left-hander in the bullpen now, which, I guess we're going to have to get someone to replace Chasen Shreve, I should say. Trevor Williams will give you a couple good innings, in a blowout game. But other than that, I mean, who else we have there? You have Trevor May is going to be coming back. Yohan Lopez, who I like Yohan Lopez. He has that gumption. You know what? You don't screw around with my players. I'm going to come up and in. So I like him.
That's in his DNA.
Yes, it is.
His DNA.
And the guy with the best name on the team, Adonis Medina. I think he's pretty good as well. But overall, the bullpen really needs an upgrade. And you know what? Is it Trevor May when he comes back? Who knows? I mean, I've seen the last of Jake Reed. I don't want to see him anymore. Sean Reed Foley, I guess, again, I don't want to see him anymore. But other than that, shaky bullpen. Leonard?
I'm going to give the bullpen
an A+.
No, stop. No, it's so funny because you talk about the bullpen and, Gary wanted to give them a C, then a B minus. And Jeff, I don't know if he actually gave him a grade. But as whatever they're doing, the Mets are 50-30. And the bullpen is in the game all the time. I don't see any complete games being thrown. So we were just talking about that, how, that's baseball. So as whatever they're doing, they're 50-30. So I don't want to grade them because I just think they're doing well enough to make the team 50-30. You take it from there.
Maybe with a better bullpen, maybe 60-20.
Maybe. Or maybe with a different bullpen, they'd be, 40-30. Wait, do the math.
40-40.
Thank you.
Well, the bullpen only has 21 saves. That means 29 of the wins have been, more than 5 and 3 runs. So you kind of have that. Okay, you have that part of relief. You don't have to.
Absolutely,
worry about it.
Absolutely. But bullpens are tough. So
fickle.
Yeah, that fickle is right. But yeah.
And I completely forgot what I was going to say, but so I'm just going to kind of wing it here. But Diaz is an A, maybe even an A+. He had that little blip in May where he blew a couple of saves. Then he straightened himself out. But Diaz is an A. You have to be crazy not to think anything else. And the rest of the bullpen is shaky. And in my opinion, the biggest need on this team, since now bullpens are in the game in the 6th inning pretty much every night, the Mets have to have more reliable arms to get those sometimes as many as 12 outs you need. Like you guys said, Lugo's been up and down almost from the start of the season. Drew Smith was doing great. He's kind of hit a wall. They need another lefty in the bullpen. I sure we're going to talk about trades. I have one guy in mind. I am betting that one or all three of you are going to have the same pitcher in mind as I do. But the Mets need an upgrade in the bullpen. Maybe it's Trevor May, although he was kind of in and out, even a little bit in and out last year. It would be nice to get a bounce back and get the Seth Lugo of 2019 in 2022. I agree 100% about Ottavino. There's just something about him, even though he's pitched better lately. There's just something about him that just makes me nervous. And who's left? Who am I missing?
Joely Rodriguez.
Okay, yeah, he's so. You can get by with him. I think it's the second lefty in the bullpen.
Only lefty now.
Well, yeah, that's true. But hopefully, Uncle Stevie, Buck, and Billy will fix that at least by the trading deadline. The Mets clearly need an upgrade in the bullpen. I'd still give him a B, but that's mainly because of Diaz.
Okay, well that's fair. I mean, it's bullpens are a tough thing, as we all know. They can be great, they can be terrible. They go from season to season that way. You'll have a terrific bullpen one year, same guys the next season will be awful. So it's hard to put together, but let's hope they can maybe add an arm or two and see where they go from there. The offense this year, has been much improved over the last few years, or at least last year, and a lot can be said about Eric Chavez's approach. And yet we've seen some struggles from the offensive as well. I think sometimes because we watch the team every day, that we see it more than maybe perhaps other people do that don't watch it, that just see them, them at 15-30. But offense, Len, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
What would you give the offense of the Mets so far in this first half?
Wait, again, they're 50-30, and it's definitely because of the offense. They don't hit a ton of home runs, but Lindor has been much better. Alonso is having an incredible season. Oh boy. I don't know that they have the offense. I shouldn't say that. If they have the pitching, well, I know we're talking offense and I'm thinking playoffs, but if they have the pitching, I think they have enough offense to do well and maybe, go to the end. Everybody's saying, I mean, I read social media and all that, everything. They add another bat. And then the question is, are they bringing the bat up from the minors or making a trade? They probably do need another bat, but they're weak at DH, that they could use some offense there. So, but I would give the offense, I mean, without dissecting position by position, because obviously at third base, we're not getting as much offense as we'd like. And, without going position by position, I'd probably give the offense an A-. How's that?
Okay, that's good. Barry?
Len, do you have a copy of my notes?
Barry, we are like simpatico. You and me.
We are spot on tonight, because that's almost the identical thing that I was going to say, and I will say it anyway. I have them as an A-, and until
it sounds better when you say it anyway, Barry.
Okay,
coming from you, it sounds better.
It's my MIT background.
Exactly.
What can?
There you go.
Anyway, until they came up against the Astros, I had them as an A, but the Astros are a very good team with a very deep pitching staff, and they're trying to win, as are all 28 other teams, just as hard as the Mets are. Maybe some people on social media may want to realize this, that the other teams are trying to win just as much as the Mets are. But getting back to the offense, I'll give them an A minus until they hit the Astros. They were uncanny getting runs, getting runners in scoring position in, and their numbers with less moving runners, advancing runners, and the clutch hitting was spectacular. And realistically, it just really wasn't going to stay that way. I guess you could call it regression to the mean. If you want some spiffy term for it. And I look at the Mets lineup and I don't really see that many holes in it. Is everyone going to hit at the same time? Well, no, of course not. But the Mets lineup is solid. Like Len said, they are kind of weak at designated hitter. It looks like Dom Smith is starting to come around a little bit. We'd like to see a few home runs from him, but I think this is just my opinion, and I would hope that it will happen this way. I kind of think it may not, but I think since the majority of the Mets games are against right-handed pitching, what the Mets should do is when they face a righty, Alonso should be the designated hitter pretty much all the time. Dom should play first base. It would only be for this year because I don't think Dom has any long-term future with this team. But for 2022, the Mets want to get to the postseason and do well. And their best lineup is Alonso DHing, Smith at first base, and I think you guys kind of know the rest of the lineup. And against lefties, I guess you put Alonso back at first and you try it with J.D. Davis, but they do have a guy in the minors. He's a right-handed hitter. He could be the 2022 version of the 2015 Michael Conforto, and that's Mark Vientos. He's raking it in AAA. They could give him a shot, let him be the right-handed DH, and see what happens. I mean, they could try that. I would have no objection to that, and they could maybe even put J.D. Davis in a trade for the much-needed bullpen help that they need.
Jeff?
Well, I'm going to say that there's a tremendous hole at the DH spot. J.D. Davis and Dom Smith, and I like Dom Smith and I like J.D. Davis, but they give you nothing. Dom Smith, 0 home runs, 16 RBIs, only batting .215, despite what he did last night. I know he had a big double last night, but batting .215 with 16 RBIs. J.D. Davis, 2 home runs, 14 RBIs, hitting .245. That means combined, they have 2 home runs and 30 RBIs out of the DH spot. Now, weren't we saying for 2-3 seasons now, when the DH comes in National League, oh, Mets are fine there, they have a DH. No, we don't. They're not doing well. They're just not. I say, and I agree with Barry here, bring up Vientos. The trade deadline is only a few weeks away. Let's see what he can do in that DH role. You know what? Give him 3 weeks, and if he doesn't do well, you didn't gain anything. You didn't lose anything. But at least you know if he does well, then you can use the pieces more for pitching that they need. Bring up Vientos. Let's see what he can do. The DH spot is a big hole, and also catcher. But we're not going to bring up Alvarez now. That would be a big mistake putting him into a pennant race like this. I wouldn't do that. But
that would be insane.
Yeah,
agreed.
I question that he should even be in AAA yet.
But I would say let's see what Vientos can do in the DH role. He can't do worse, and that frees up the time. Other things that the team could do, get pitching at the trade deadline. I mean, I like Dom and I like J.D. Davis, but they give you nothing. Gary, tell me, am I wrong?
No, I agree that the DH has been a black hole, but it's been a black hole for a lot of teams in the National League. Sure. I mean, other than the Phillies and the Braves, and really, I don't think a lot of the numbers for the designated hit. I was just trying to find them, I couldn't find them, but I mean, they're pretty paltry. It's they had better numbers without the DH, and That's going some because when you're considering the pitchers hitting. But it has not been good. They definitely have to do something about it, whether or not they go out and get a Josh Bell or try to get a Josh Bell or a Nelson Cruz, something along that line. But they're not even well. Josh Bell is having a great year, but he's been playing too. He's been playing first base. Nelson Cruz is having a terrible season so far, so I don't think I'd go waste any talent for him. I do like the idea of Mark Vientos. I don't see a problem with it. He's not that good with the glove, but yet it gives you more flexibility. It gives you a guy that can play first, third, a little bit of left field if necessary, and like you said, just let him hit and be the DH then, and he has been having a good year. He got off to a slow start, but now he's raking, as Barry said. Alvarez has been talk about bringing him up as the DH. I would not do it. I would not do that idea at all. He is your catcher for the future. Let him learn how to catch. Scherzer was very impressed with him when he pitched in Binghamton, and that's high praise coming from Scherzer. So let him develop that ability still. Let him keep going. I don't think it was a bad idea rushing him to Syracuse. I don't think they're rushing him. I think the Mets. We criticize the Mets if they don't bring a guy up at a young age and they wait, and then if they do bring a guy along, we criticize them for that too. So you never can win as an organization. But remember, Doc Gooden came up as a 19-year-old. So I think if it's a chance to see if this kid can handle it. I think he, be all right. He got his first hit in an RBI last night for Syracuse in a game. It was his first start. So I think he's okay. Don't worry about him. He's a mature kid, but let him work more on his craft of catching because they really need him, at least in his first few years, to be a catcher. And then if they decide, once he hits the majors and he has, he's hitting the pitching and they decide to move him to either another position or make him the DH, that's fine. But let him learn the craft. I know they have other catchers coming up, and while the offense has been terrible from a catching position, the defense itself hasn't been bad. Nito's been throwing out guys. McCann has thrown out some guys. McCann has shown some signs of maybe perhaps hitting a little bit more, and Nito's he's a funny hitter. He really is. I mean, he'll go 0 for 20 and then have a 3 for 3 game. You never know with this guy. He'll look bad at one at bat, and the next bat he'll dump a key single or something. So I think that if they get Escobar going, and he seems to be going now a little bit, and Canna's got to get hot again, and McNeil's kind of cooled off. He's got to get going. I think they'll be okay, and they can carry a Nito and a McCann at the catcher spot. And I still think this team relies on Nimmo. How Nimmo goes, that's how this team seems to go. Nimmo had a good night last night, and they won the game. Struggled the other night, and they lost against Texas. So, I think he's a big spark and a key player, even if he's hitting 269 or whatever. He means a lot to this team, and they better sign him next year because he is a spark plug. I don't care what you hit. He's just one of those guys that the intangibles with him is very important. All right. I don't know if you want to talk about the defense at all. It's been pretty decent. Anybody else want to chime in on the defense?
It's much improved. That's all I'm going to say. It's definitely much improved. We don't talk a lot about the defense because it's better. Defense is something that unless it's like, unless you got Ozzie Smith at shortstop, they make the plays that they have to. Sometimes they make some really nice plays. They've been the defense has been much improved. No complaints.
Defense is solid. We went through years where it was Murphy and Flores as the double play combination, and somehow won a pennant with that.
It went to the World Series.
Most of the time, the defense is well above average, and I had no problems with it at all.
I gotta tell you, I'm so impressed with Jeff McNeil on defense.
Yeah,
put him at second base or put him in the outfield. He's gonna make the plays.
Yeah,
because
he's a player. I hate to say it, and I'm not even mocking you, Jeff, but baseball, he's a player. It's in his DNA.
And for years I said put McNeil in one position, but they move him between second base and left field, and his defense doesn't suffer at all. And then you have the super sub in Luis Guillorme, who can play anywhere in the infield, and now they're starting to see that with regular bats he's getting exposed, but as a part-time player, he is still a very valuable part of this team, just not as an everyday player.
Let me just say something about. I'm sorry. Let me just say something about Francisco Lindor. I mean, I know we're expecting so much more out of him due to his contract, and right now he's batting .248. But in the last 162 games he's played, he has 151 hits, 23 doubles, 5 triples, 30 home runs, 102 runs scored, 111 RBIs, and 15 stolen bases, and batting .251. I think we're expecting a lot more out of the contract. That's who he is. And he's going to give you a solid defense. So people should stop worrying about what he's getting paid too much money, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. It's done. He's getting paid. And, let's just hope he has a good season. These numbers are very good. I mean, almost a hit a game.
I will say this about Lindor. I think I was led to believe that his glove was a lot better than it is. I see a lot of loose play at shortstop sometimes from him, and this is just a minor criticism. But it just, I guess I expected to see Ozzie Smith at shortstop, and I'm not getting it. I'm not getting a Ray Ordonez. I'm getting more like Rafael Santana. Maybe a notch above defensively, not offensively. But I am surprised at the defense isn't as sharp as everybody made it out to be, and that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
No, he's not the Wizard of Oz, but
who is
right.
And maybe he's lost a step or two, and maybe that's one reason, along with the money, of course, that the Guardians wanted to trade him, and the Guardian fans can't complain about that trade at all. I'm sure you guys have followed. Rosie's playing well, and Andres Jimenez,
he's
going crazy.
Mm.
Yeah,
they'd have made that trade straight up. Lindor for Jimenez with the stats Jimenez is giving them so far. He's been unbelievable. Who knew he had that kind of power?
Yeah.
And his defense is second to none. Maybe we saw Jimenez at shortstop a lot in 2020, and we were expecting that from Lindor. But I still think Lindor is solid. He makes most of the plays.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, like Gary said, maybe he'll have a loose throw and have a throwing error that way. But I can't complain about the Mets defense really in any position.
A little side note. In that Edwin Diaz trade that the Mets made a few years ago, the Mariners wanted Jimenez, not Kelenic at first. Just goes to show you how highly they thought of Jimenez at that time.
Yeah. Well, the big question with him and this was would he hit in the majors. I think he's answered that question last year and this year. So, that's the way it works sometimes. All right. The manager and the
And I just
coaching
wanted to say Guardians. That's why I threw that in. Just to say
Oh, okay.
Cleveland Guardians. Okay.
The manager and the coaching staff. Do we want to give them a report, or just say straight A's all across the board, or has anybody got any comments about the manager and the coaching staff?
Give them A's. Buck Showalter came in. They finally took a fine car with a great engine, tires.
Here we go. You know what? I gotta just tell you, we were guests on a show last week, and Len likes to use this metaphor a lot. Go ahead, Len. Go ahead.
Wow, this is what I got to deal with.
What is he, a one-trick pony, Jeff? Is that what you're trying to say?
I am,
He
but
loves the metaphor.
I like to use it, yes, because I feel like what they did was they were always building this, this fine car, at least trying to, and then they were taking someone who had just gotten their license and saying, here, drive it. Finally, they got a driver who actually has experience, knows what they're doing, and can handle a fine engine, a fine race car. I feel good about it. That's that. Okay. So yes, Jeff, I use it a lot.
Well, how do you feel about the bullpen coach, Craig Bjornson?
How do I feel about him?
Yeah.
You know what, Jeff? I loop them. They're 50 and 30. That's all I got to say. They're 50 and 30. If he has anything to do with it, then I'm good.
I always said that the batting coach really doesn't do much. He's there more of an advisor to the players who want to come up and want a little help. But I got to tell you, Eric Chavez's philosophy with this team, much better than in the past. It's more like the Yogi Berra way of hitting. See the ball, hit the ball. Not, don't worry about your launch angle and your angle of your body. See the ball, hit the ball. And you know what? Hit them where they ain't. And that's what McNeil does great. He hits them where they ain't.
And I think it was Len that said that scoring these runs and not hitting nearly as many home runs. I think they're toward the bottom of the league in home runs. And if it wasn't for Alonso, they'd be dead last in the league in home runs. So as far as the manager and his staff, yeah, you have to give them A's, even when they make moves that just don't make sense. Like the other night, he put Diaz in the 8th inning. And I think a lot of us thought he was well rested. He'd go out for the ninth. He put Smith in. Smith blew the lead. I might have even blown the game. But Buck had an answer. He said it's a long season. We're going to need Diaz. I'm sure for the stretch run, he's going to be in there for multiple innings, multiple times. So in Buck, we trust. And if we're grading on a curve compared to the CRAP we've had over the past 4 seasons, I'd give him a grade higher than an A+.
Well,
and I agree 100% on
you.
Chavez with Jeff.
There is a grade higher than an A+, by the way.
A++.
When I was a kid, I was in a class with it was a spelling class.
Music playing in the background.
Jeff has never heard this one. So there. I was in a spelling class with some really good spellers, and we would, they'd get an A+, and the teacher would say, well, that's good, but it's not good +enough. And we would say, what's better than an A+? And I'll never forget, the teacher said to us, I don't know, an A++ Mickey Mouse check star.
All right.
That's what's better. So what? That's right. If you can earn an A++ Mickey Mouse check star.
Okay.
And that was the best grade you could get. So that's what you got to earn.
Well, I'm going to give the coaching staff and manager the Mickey Mouse check star.
An A++ Mickey Mouse check star.
Mickey Mouse check star. I think they're doing a terrific job. I think, like everyone said, this team, even the coaching staff, when you see a guy get on base, the first base coach looks more confident. The third base coach looks confident. There's no question when he's waving somebody home, he's confident. It's not like the years past. I can't explain it. I don't know if it's just me, but I see Showalter in the dugout, and he looks like, hey, I'm the boss. I'm in control. I'm confident. Hefner we knew, and Hefner was well respected last year. Everybody loved Hefner. That was a brilliant move keeping him, bringing him in with a guy like Showalter because he's just going to improve as a coach. And you got to give him some of the credit for holding his pitching staff together. With all these injuries, Hefner's got to get some of that credit. I agree on Chavez. I think his philosophy is, we have said that, and not that we know much about baseball, but we have said for years, see the ball, hit the ball, and finally they've got not only a manager but a hitting coach that's got a similar philosophy, and it's working. Don't forget they had Chili Davis, but we're not sure if the manager was so in tune with him, and that got him fired last year. So I think that that all together, and they didn't get rid of, I shouldn't say that, but they took an emphasis off of analytics. I think last year, and I think this is what happened to Conforto. I think they stuffed so much into these guys' brains before the game and during the game that they could not hit. They froze, or whatever you want to call it. If they thought too much, and I believe that's what happened to Conforto last year. I believe if they had signed Conforto this year, he'd be hitting 300 with 20 homers. He'd be tearing the cover off the ball with this crew, this staff. But I just seem to think that there's just a more, they're better prepared, but they're not overly prepared, if that makes sense. Buck gets them ready, but they're not. Things aren't keep stuffed into their head, and there were reports that the analytics guys were calling down into the dugout and telling guys between innings things last year, and just were coming down into batting practice and telling him things, and I think it was too much for a lot of these guys, and I think, as we've all said, Buck is a professional, and he's in charge. I mean, there's no, if somebody comes down from the front office, I think he'll tell them to hit the road. You're not telling me what to do, and I don't care. You want to fire me? Fire me. I go back to MLB Network and get a job, or I can get a job somewhere else. So. I think he's just doing win, lose, or draw the rest of the season. I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think the whole staff is doing a great job. So that's my opinion. Okay, trades. Who do we want to get, or if anybody, or position? And who would you give up?
Can I go first?
Sure.
Okay, because I kind of alluded to the left-handed relief pitcher that the Mets need to complement the rest of their bullpen. And I think you guys know where I'm going with this. They're still kind of on the fringe of the race in the American League, but the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim aren't going to win anything. They haven't in a long time, and they have our lefty relief pitcher, and that's who I think the Mets need to be targeting. There are other guys too. I can't say that I am really that up to speed on left-handed relief pitchers or relief pitchers in general, but the two guys I kind of think the Mets should be targeting in the bullpen would be David Bednar of the Pirates, who's their closer and has been really solid for the past year, and of course Aaron Loup. those are the two guys the Mets should be going after for the bullpen. I mean, there are other guys, but I mean, I did look at this a little bit over the past couple of days, and those are the two guys the Mets should be targeting. What you have to give up to get them? Well, we know that every team in contention is going to be looking at relief pitchers, and you may have to overpay a little. I wouldn't give up the top prospects, but I suppose a second level prospect for Bednar and Loop or both, especially with Bednar, who is not a free agent until 2027. I think you'd have to consider it. Now, can I mention a couple of starting pitchers also?
Sure.
Okay. Well, the Diamondbacks have two, and I kind of morphed them into one because Matt actually bowled with a guy who has this name, and I'll call him Zach Kelly, but I'm really talking about Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't think Gallen is available because he's young. I think you'd have to give up the world to him, but Merrill Kelly is a solid pitcher. He's 33 years old, and he's not a free agent until after the 2026 season. The Mets have seen him a few times. He's pitched very effectively against them, and he's just a solid middle of the rotation kind of guy. I think that is the starting pitcher that the Mets should be targeting. Again, it depends on what you have to give up. I'm sure he'll be in high demand, but that's the guy I think the Mets should be targeting. And Gary, I think you mentioned Jose Cruz. Not Jose Cruz. Yeah, I'm okay. Nelson Cruz and Josh Bell. The guy I have here is right up the road from him. And that's a Trey Mancini of the Baltimore Orioles. He could slot right into the DH spot. I think a trade that would make sense for both teams would be a straight one. Again, I'm playing GM. What do I know? But anyway, what would you guys think of a Trey Mancini straight up 1-for-1 trade for Don Smith? How's that sound?
Do it right. Where do I sign up for that?
And I think the Orioles might do it. They're in a rebuild. They have been for a long time. I think in that ballpark with those little league dimensions, I think Smith could be a star there. He just needs to play every day.
You know, you mentioned Merrill Kelly, who will be a fine addition, but also Diamondbacks have a high price pitcher that they're trying to trade, so you might have to take back a Madison Square Garden, Madison Bumgarner, along with Merrill Kelly, who happens to be younger than Merrill Kelly, Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know. That's crazy.
He's a seasoned veteran. He's been through the wars. He's not as good as he was 10 years ago in his heyday with the Giants. But you know what? You can use a seasoned veteran who knows what he's doing on the mound. And Madison, I was going to say it again. Madison Bumgarner wouldn't be a bad addition. If you have to take Merrill Kelly, you might have to take back that contract too. Len?
I'm not going to talk the trade game. Here's a move though that I think the Mets should make, and this I don't know why, but it concerns me. For 2 years now, Pete Alonso, home run derby, and he's won it. Wins $1 million each time. He's going to compete again. I just have a bad feeling about it. If I was the Mets, here's the move I would make, and this isn't a trade. Cohen says to Alonso, listen, I don't want you to do the competition. I'm going to give you $1 million, clear and free. I'll give you $1 million, and I'm going to donate $1 million to your favorite charity. So I'm going to give you $1 million and $1 million to your favorite charity, and I'm going to ask you not to compete in the home run derby because, and I know he loves doing it, chances are he'll be okay. But on that rare occurrence that for some reason we lose Alonso for any part of the second half, I got a problem with that. So that's the move that I would make. besides the trade moves that you guys are discussing. All right, and that's why your listeners will go down incrementally on this episode. But what can I do? I am who I am.
And Jeff, quickie question: the Bumgarner
He doesn't.
analogy
No
is very interesting. What I don't know is, does he have he must have some kind of a limited no trade clause, so he might.
I would think
not
so.
come. No,
I would think
I
he
thought
would.
he might, but
I think he would. Yes, I agree with you.
That's a very intriguing thought to bring back both of those pitchers. That's really interesting. You know what? You'd have to think about that if it means taking that big contract, along with wanting to know how many years he has left on it. But I hadn't thought of Bumgarner at all. But that's definitely food for thought.
Just to let you know that Aaron Loop has a 4.66 ERA. That's kind of high.
I'll still take him back.
Okay.
Interesting. I never really thought about Baumgartner, but you're right. With maybe with a contender, and he can discover some of that magic. He came out of the bullpen for San Francisco,
Right.
so he could be a swing guy for the Mets if he's healthy. I don't know whether or not he is healthy or not.
Yeah, he's healthy.
What kind
And you
of
can
season
never
is
have,
he having?
and you can never have too much pitching.
You know what? A fourth or fifth guy named Madison Baumgartner is not bad. Right now, he's he's pitching for the Diamondbacks. He's 4-8, but his ERA is respectable, 3.74.
Okay, yeah.
You know what? That's respectable.
And getting back to the Loop thing, and you guys all know is that relief pitchers' ERAs can be very misleading at times. Again, we don't follow the Angels that closely, so I really don't know if he's pitched well or not. But what I do remember is how he pitched last year, and he certainly, as long as you don't have to give up the farm, try to get him back. He was so good with the Mets last year.
I think that they may have to give up Mauricio somewhere along the line.
And that's the one I would give up because he's blocked. He's not going to go play shortstop. McNeil still has a few more years in him. You're not going to get rid of Beatty or Vientos or Alvarez or the pitcher. Who's that stud pitcher they have? I forgot his name. But yeah, exactly. But they're Mauricio would be the one to give up if you can get good enough back.
I think Arizona has a pretty decent shortstop, but if you could put Mauricio and a couple of other guys, and if you have to bring back, along with Kelly, you bring back Bumgarner. Again, there's ways to make the trade work, but that's very intriguing. That really is. That's a very interesting proposition. Madison Bumgarner in the postseason with his track record. I mean, wow.
And Cincinnati has a couple of young pitchers too that I think are going to get a lot of attention. Can't think of their names. One is Tyler Mailer, I think, and the other I can't think of his name. Luis, right? Luis Castillo. Yeah. I guess the Pirates will have some interest. The Cubs will probably be sellers as well. Anybody on the Cubs other than the catcher could be a possibility if they want to go that route.
Gary, you'll love this. How about bringing back Marcus Stroman 2.0?
Oh, God, no. No. I think the Cubs, Cubs are regretting that signing because they paid a lot of money for a terrible pitcher. I mean, he's been awful for them. He was hurt. He's been out, and I don't know what his numbers are now. I think he's like 3-8 or something with a 5.49 ERA. I don't think they'd go that route, especially what he said about the organization when he left. So, another one of those guys. Keep your mouth shut when you leave.
Agree. 100% agree with
You know,
you.
If he was
only
8-3, they would have brought him back, no matter what he said. They wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, but he's not 8-3.
I know, but I'm just saying that it's it. You can say what you
No,
say
I don't
as long
know.
as you
I
have
don't
the
know.
numbers.
If there's somebody else out there and the choice to him is somebody else and it's you're giving up reasonably the same package, I think they'd go with the other person right now. You know, I just don't think that he would be worth bringing back at this point in time. How about Steven Matz bringing him back? You know, though the Cardinals are in a race, so I don't know whether or not they would want to. They're probably going to be buyers themselves and not sellers. Same thing with Milwaukee. We thought maybe try to get Hayden, the closer, but they're in the race. They're back in first place, I believe, or at least they're jockeying back and forth there, the Cardinals and the Brewers. So I don't think he would be available as well. Well, any other topics you'd all like to discuss at all? No?
No, I have a couple little things here. And I want to give credit where credit is due to my friend Howard for pointing out that the Yankees were off on the 4th of July. And I think that is absolutely absurd. And not only that, and this comes from my friend Neil, they not only were off on the 4th of July, they didn't play on Memorial Day this year either. That's ridiculous. Wow. I got nothing to say other than that on that.
Phillies didn't play 4th of July
and the Phillies
either.
too. You're right.
Yeah.
Got that. But I had it in my notes.
The Philadelphia Phillies, the city of brotherly love, did not play on July 4th.
That's insane.
Yeah, that one is really
insane.
I mean, yeah.
Schedule maker should be well, I won't say shot, but
you know, I will say this. There should be some. I know baseball has changed a lot. I get that, but there should be some traditions that should be still held up.
Absolutely.
One of them being doubleheaders on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day. And you know what? Everybody plays. Everybody's off. Kids are home. Play a doubleheader. And you know what? I know the 2 games in one day and losing a gate. These guys have so much money. You know what? They can afford to give a game away for free. They'll make it up in all the food, all the overpriced soda and beer that they sell. Please, they should do that.
And like you say, it's tradition.
Yeah.
And maybe next year you'll get a little better when they do the interleague play. They modify where basically every team is going to play every other team. And by that, what I mean is that it'll pretty much eliminate 4-game series. There'll only be a handful of them, only against your intra-division rivals. And with so many people leaving the Northwest, the Northeast, the Midwest, and and moving to other towns, it'll at least give Met fans and fans of other teams that relocated a chance to see their team every couple of years. I personally can't wait when the Mets go to a couple of these Midwestern cities and play interleague games, especially when they finally make it to Kansas City, because I'm owed a trip to the Negro League Museum. Things happened the last time we were in KC, and everything got messed up. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but we were supposed to go to the Negro League Museum, but couldn't. So next time the Mets play in Kansas City, we want to take a trip there. I think we should all plan a road trip to Kansas City the next time the Mets play there. We can hit a couple of barbecue places. I know you guys have had Bob Kendrick on your show many a times, and I'm thinking if we go, regardless of who we go with, I'll just say to Mr. Kendrick, I'm friends with Len and Jeff from Baseball and Barbecue. Been on this show a couple of times. Have done many a roundtable with them. So he'll treat me real well if he knows that. We can also compare.
He'll charge you double.
At least, at
Well,
least.
he can charge me double, but if we go to dinner, he can pay the bill for that. I know he has a favorite barbecue place. It's called Arthur Bryant. I remember this because when Matt and I were there in 2017, we went on the internet and we saw the top barbecue place. We didn't know anything in Kansas City. We went to the top two. Number one on the list was Q39. That was the best. Number two on the list was Joe's. That was excellent too. And wouldn't you know, number three on the list was Arthur Bryan. So we never quite made it there. So when the Mets are playing in Kansas City, whether it's 2023 or 2024, we're going to try our very best to make it there.
All right. So I don't know how the schedule is going to work out next year. Are they supposed to play every team?
Yeah, it's going to be the beginning of the end. It's going to be the beginning of
The
radical
end of the
realignment.
National League and the American
End of the
League.
National League and the American League. They're going to go like basketball, and that's I guess that's Manfred's dream.
Question for you guys, okay? Because I am not. I there's so many things that are changing in baseball that some I'm good with, some I'm not. This interleague with every team playing every team, I'm not thrilled with. The Mets just played Texas. Did anybody other than the fact that it was a Met game, did anyone say, "Oh, they're playing Texas. I've got to see that one"?
Only listeners to Mets Musings because they learned about the Texas
But Len,
Rangers.
substitute the Pirates for the Texas Rangers. Isn't it the same thing?
But the Pirates, we have a history. I don't know.
I know.
You
I
know,
don't love it either. But the other thing about every team playing every other team, at least it's fair that way. For years, the Mets would be playing 6 games against the Yankees, and the Braves would be playing none. That happened way too many times, and in years where the Mets lost the division by 1 or 2 games. So the schedule's never or rarely been fair. At least this makes it a little fairer to everybody.
Well, look, even this year, I mean, if you think about it, when Atlanta was having their hot streak, they were playing Washington and I think Baltimore, and the Mets were playing the Dodgers and the Padres and the Giants. So, it still works out that way no matter what.
But that's different, Gary. It's when you play. I mean, when Atlanta plays the Dodgers are a good team regardless of when you play them. Just like the Orioles are a bad team.
We're going to have no National League. We're going to have no American League because basically it's just going to be a hodgepodge. The tradition of having 2 leagues and then meeting in the World Series, that is all going to go goodbye. That could be a whole nother show, but give me a break. I mean, I know now we've both got the DH, but come on. I mean, you're going to have the whole. I'm sorry. It's just. So are we going to realign? So let's realign. So we're going to put the Mets and the Yankees and the Red Sox and in the same division. We're gonna maybe the Phillies. I mean, why don't we do it that way? Why don't we realign that way?
It's going to happen.
I mean, come on. This is just.
It's Rob Manfred's dream.
And Gary, you and I have had this conversation about total realignment. And I've actually had a proposal where I did put either 4 18 divisions or 8 14 divisions. And the way I'm not going to go through the mechanizations. I'll save that for my thesis at MIT. But anyway, maybe that day is coming, and I'm not sure that's such a terrible thing. The All-Star game is meaningless anyway. At some point, they're going to add 2 teams. So if you have a 32-team major league with I don't know whether it's 8 14 divisions or 4 18 divisions, and somehow you still basically keep it the way it's going to be next year, and that's not the worst thing in the world. And there are cities that were screwed by Major League Baseball. The city that comes to mind first and foremost is Montreal. They should have a baseball team. That's ridiculous. Nashville could have a team. Maybe the Marlins could relocate there. I think the 27 fans that actually attend Marlins games will be a little disappointed, but they'll get over it. And I'm not sure, but maybe you guys know. I had heard that Oakland might be getting their new stadium after all, because I had them moving to Vegas, which makes total sense. And then the fourth team could be like a Pacific Northwest team, whether it's Portland to give Seattle a rivalry. I've actually done a good amount of research on this, and I think that's the way we're going. Maybe it will eliminate the American League and the National League, or they'll just be two leagues in name only. But total realignment, Mets playing the Yankees more times, that might be good. May not be good for the Mets, but they'll be good for baseball. Good for the fans, for sure.
I don't know about that.
I think so.
You think it'll be? The Mets playing the Yankees all the time. Like it's a novelty now, and then it's.
What they're doing is they're going to ruin the World Series because that's going to be meaningless. The reason the All-Star game is meaningless is because they ruined it, because they brought in interleague play. That killed the All-Star game. The All-Star game was our chance when you were kids to see the other league. Oh, they were like this other thing. We never saw them that much. I was kind of interested to see the Texas Rangers because we know so little about them. And it was a chance to see another team. They've taken that away, though, with the interleague play.
Well, they added it with the interleague play. How did they take it away? You said you're interested in seeing the Rangers play them. If they didn't have interleague play, you wouldn't have seen it.
But if they didn't have interleague play, you'd see the All-Star game and you would see the teams then. Or you would have saw them the game of the week if it was an American League game. Or if it was depending upon if you were a Mets or a Yankee fan. When we were kids, that's where you got to see these guys, and there was intriguement about it that we don't have anymore. The All-Star game was a big deal because, hey, we were going to see, before the Mets came in, we were going to go see, we were going to tune in and see Willie Mays and see Don Drysdale and Sandy Koufax. We just heard about Sandy Koufax. They didn't play his games because he played out on the West Coast. There wasn't games like there are now, or streaming and all of this stuff. That's another thing they're going to go to. They're going to go to all streaming. It's not going to be any networks in the future. It's going to be all, you'd go to MLB TV and pay a price to either view the Met games or to view all the games. But they've ruined it. They've ruined even the playoffs now. I get a kick out of when they say, well, Reggie Jackson, or maybe not him now, but whoever's got the home run record for the playoffs. Yeah, but see, it used to be the World Series when Mickey Mantle broke the record, Babe Ruth's record for home runs in the World Series games. It was a big deal. Now they've watered that down by making all the records the playoff records. No, why can't we have national championship, or championship records and World Series records? Why Reggie Jackson doesn't have it because he hit more? How do you even compare? Because when the Yankees won all those years and all the other teams, they didn't have all these playoff games. So, Mantle's record is more important than Reggie Jackson's because Reggie Jackson had a ton more games to hit it in. His was just World Series games. So it's all of this stuff. And now, while we have a few more minutes, what about robot umps? This is something else that Manfred wants. It's gonna be here.
Yeah,
Any thoughts?
I mean, you have you have Aaron Judge, 6'6". You have Jose Altuve at 5'8" or something. How could the strike zone? It can't be a strike zone for all players. I think they got to have. I guess they'll have sensors in their uniforms to figure out when a strike. I mean, you can figure out the inside outside, it's the height, that's going to change. The guy needs something. You know what? It's coming. I can see it coming, but I'd rather not have it. I like your idea, Gary, where you have a sensor in the bases to see if they're lights up or makes a noise, or if they make the base, in a close play. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable idea, but I don't know how it's going to work, and how you're gonna have an umpire standing there, and they're gonna have somebody. He's gonna have a headphone telling him ball, strike, and then he's just gonna repeat it. It's just it goes against the whole umpiring thing, I think.
Yeah.
And Gary, I do agree with you when you talk about the way they report these statistics. I mean, the fact that Jock Peterson may have more postseason home runs than Mickey Mantle. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean,
It is.
I mean, come on, that's just plain nuts. As far as robotic umpires, I don't know. Are they trying that in the minors any place this year? I don't. I thought I heard they might be.
I believe that they are in certain minor leagues, or they may be using it in the Atlantic League.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I would have no problem. I wouldn't be adverse to them at least trying it. Let's say in spring training, and seeing how it goes. I don't know if I would jump right in, but the quality of umpiring gets worse and worse every year, and I think the umpires are just scared now to be wrong. But at the same time, you want them to get the call right, and most of the time it takes forever. That's another issue that drives me crazy, is to get the call right. I mean, on safe out calls on the bases mostly, you get 20 seconds. If they don't have an answer, the call just stands, right or wrong.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Time. Let me just finish, Len. Hold that thought. It's not so much the instant replay robotic umpires, what have you. It's just the method that they use. They have to change that and make it go faster. Gary Cohen talks about that all the time.
You're going to hear, it's going to be, Alexa, what was that pitch? Well, Leonard, that pitch was a strike. Would you like me to tell you the weather? Oh, Alexa, thank you. Today will be rainy. Oh, will we play the game? That pitch was a ball. Thank you, Alexa. I mean, that's what it's going to be.
Well, as far as what Jeff was bringing up about the height difference, I'm not sure if these things use those boxes like we see on television.
No, those boxes are different for each team. I mean, it's the broadcast, if it's SNY or another broadcast, and they don't want to put the box, because we spoke to Dale Scott and he posted on Facebook the same exact pitch with two different boxes, one from the SNY broadcast, one from another broadcast, and it was different. So those boxes don't really mean much.
I don't know how they're going to do it then. The only thing I can say is, as you said, some sort of sensor, but what if you get Aaron Judge and you put a sensor at this level and his knees, and then he crouches over, that throws the sensor all off. His strike zone's gonna shrink. Same thing with Altuve. So I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do it. I don't know how they do it. But they say they're gonna do it, and I think he said Manfred, he wants it by 2024, if I'm not mistaken. So. It's coming fast, and I'm not a fan of it. I just don't. I think you take the human element out of it. Yes, you want to get the calls right, but you know what? Hitting is about adjustments, and any good hitter will tell you adjust to an umpire. You know where he has a predilection to call things. He wants to, some guys are low ball callers, some are high ball callers, and you just got to be aware of that. Some guys get the outside, some guys don't, and you have to adjust your hitting to such.
Hello,
If you-
Gary.
Yes.
This is not Leonard. Leonard had to leave. So I am sitting in for him. He will be back. But until he comes back, may I ask what you are talking about? I would like to participate in the conversation. I am a robot.
a robot podcaster, huh?
That
Jeff, you
would
gotta
be
put up
a
with
good
this?
podcast.
Jeff, this is
Yeah.
what you put up with every week, huh?
I know, right?
Poor man.
Oh,
Well, I guess we've beaten everything to a pulp now. So, any final thoughts? We'll just go around, starting with Barry.
I had a blast. I think this is the best roundtable we ever had. Now it certainly helps that the Mets are 50-30. Does anyone have a score of tonight's game? by the
0-0.
way?
0.
What inning?
Fourth inning, and
Okay.
JD Davis popped up with 2 men on.
And Scherzer's still in the game?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Alexa, what's the score?
No, this is the best roundtable we ever did. So Gary, Len, and Jeff, thank you. This was great.
Len?
How do I
Or
top that?
Robot Len?
Well, we can do different languages too. I will talk with accents. It is good. No, all I'm going to say is wow. I think we went off the deep end. I'm just glad that I'm here for the best one that we've ever done. I would have, but no, it's a pleasure being on with you guys. The Mets are 50-30, and next year they won't even play the game. It'll all be video games. It'll just be PlayStation.
Jeff?
Well, thank you for having us on. This was very enjoyable. I just want to give a plug out to Baseball and BBQ.
Please do.
Our next episode is coming out Saturday. It's going to be with Terrence Moore, who wrote a book on Hank Aaron, the real Hank Aaron.
And who else will be on that show, Jeff?
Well, the barbecue portion is an NFL insider, Ian Rappaport, who's going to talk about barbecue. He's also a big Mets fan.
Yes. So that is going to be a show you are going to want to listen to. And you could ask Alexa to play it for you. Alexa, play baseball and barbecue, and she will do it.
And if you don't have an Alexa, will Siri play it or Google play?
Yeah, I think Siri. You know what I want to know is if Alexa and Siri can ever be in the same room together. Can they get along?
I don't know.
We have to find out.
I heard that they had a thing years ago together, so I don't put.
Or maybe it's the equivalent of American League versus National League. It's Siri versus Alexa. Who knows?
Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you all for taking time out. Jeff, one other thing. Where can the people get your wonderful podcast?
We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. Len, anything else?
You said Apple, right?
BaseballTalkRadio.com.
Yeah. Any of these podcast apps, Barry's throwing his notes away. That's it. Anywhere you get your podcasts, and seriously, you can ask your smart device to play it. There is nowhere you cannot find it. Just Google it, baseball and BBQ, and we're honored to be on with you, Gary, and to be with you, Barry, and this is just a pleasure, and we appreciate you promoting it for Met fans that are listening to this show. I'm imagining Mets Musings. There must be some. We had Sandy Alderson on. Let's not forget about that. So if you guys want to hear an interview with Sandy Alderson, Jeff, what episode was that? I'm putting you on the spot, aren't I?
Oh, no.
All right, Google it. Google it. We had Sandy Alderson.
Ask Alexa.
Exactly. We had who Jeff, what are some of the Mets that we have had on?
Steve Traxel, Lyndon Rush, Hojo,
Nelson Figueroa.
Ed Hearn.
Ed Hearn.
Yeah, Ed Hearn.
Todd Pratt, Max
Yeah,
Ron Swoboda.
Ed Cranepool. We had Irene Hodges on. Oh, you know what? We even had on oh, I lost my who was I gonna say? Wayne Randazzo. We had Wayne Randazzo from the radio booth. I mean, so even though we're not a Mets podcast, we have had on a ton of Mets. So please listen, subscribe, and all that. And we've had Gary Mack on numerous times. As a matter of fact, we just had Gary on a couple episodes ago, didn't we?
Yeah. Yes.
Giving his
all-star
picks. Yeah.
Least downloaded episodes was the one.
Not true. The ones I'm on are least downloaded.
Well, again, thank you all for coming on. And this is a Mets podcast, and I have interviewed several Mets players as well, including former players Ron Darling and John Matlack, and even a young Pete Alonso was on this show.
Nice.
So I hope that you will continue to watch and or listen to
Harry,
this podcast.
That's Craig Swan you had on. Yes, Skip Lockwood on.
Yeah, you've had on some incredible. Listen, guys, Mets Musings is what helped launch Baseball and Barbecue. Without Mets Musings, there probably would not be Baseball and Barbecue, at least not the way it is now. So you can either send Gary hate mail or fan mail, whichever.
We accept both.
And remember, I was a part of that too.
That's right.
In the early stages.
That's right.
The Matt Lato stage.
That's right. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up right now. So as I was saying, thank my guests, and thank you all for listening and or watching to the podcast. Please hit the subscribe and like button so we know you're watching, and you will know when the next episode and the latest episode of Mets Musings come out. So until next time, remember to keep the faith, stay optimistic, and
let's
go
Mets. Gary Mack.
And I will see you all the next time on another edition of Mets Musings.